Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Cara Lynn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. I am so excited for today's podcast. I have Gina Worful with me, who is a registered dietitian, and she got her master's in human nutrition. And after years of on and off dieting and health struggles, Gina became passionate about teaching people how to know their body and become empowered from the inside out. So welcome, Gina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this. You are the pro of all this mindful eating and knowing your body and things like that. So I'm really excited to get started. Tell my followers how you got started on this journey of teaching people how to know their body and how to be empowered from the inside out. What sparked all of this?
Yeah, so my work has changed quite a bit. Back in 2012, I became a registered dietitian. And while I love the, nutrition and learning about your food and everything, I was taught the standard, like, here, you give people these calorie plans, right? Like you put somebody on this 1,300 calorie diet program and you just give them that and with these guidelines and you expect them to follow it. And so I, graduated ready with my training, ready to give people like the best plans. And I opened up a private practice and I started working with people. And what happened was they would come get their nutrition goals, get their plan, their program, and they would come back like a week later or 2 weeks later, and they were feeling really frustrated. And, they would come back saying like, I did it, but then I was doing great, but then I was on it, but then I started over. And it was constantly this back and forth between like, I was on my program, I was off my program. And so I would like meet up with other dietitians and say, what are you guys doing here? How are people getting these outcomes? And they're like, you just really got to cheer them on and hope that that works. And if they don't stick to it, then it's their fault. It's not yours. You just give them the program.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I get that. I get that people have to follow through, but there must be something really broken with the system because I can't just continue my career giving people plans and they're not feeling empowered. And they're actually coming to me feeling a ton of shame, a ton of guilt. And they were like, God, I just need more willpower. And I started to hear that over and over again. I just need more willpower. So there was like kind of this missing piece of like, what is it that they're not having this power inside themselves? And if I just keep giving them these rules and these goals and these programs, they're trying to use willpower, but they weren't actually changing from the inside out and feeling really proud and changing their lives long term.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Because that's the culture we've grown up in though, is like this diet culture where you've got to have willpower to choose the right foods. And if not, right. Shame on you.
And willpower is like an emotion, right? Like have you ever felt like you have willpower when it's really sunny and you hear a good song on the radio and you're in a good mood and you're like, I'm going to eat that salad today and you're feeling great. But then all of a sudden it's like cloudy and rainy and someone made you upset and you're tired and you have no willpower and you're like, why am I just craving, sugar today?
Right. So
the willpower comes and goes.
That's true. And on these programs, they expect you to have willpower 100% of the time and to always choose right and to choose correctly.
Exactly.
Okay, so you teach that you should have a relationship with your body. That should be like number one priority, and that we need to connect our food with our body. So what do you mean by this?
Well, so if you don't know what's happening inside of your body, maybe you keep like getting cravings or you don't know why your metabolism is slow or you can't figure things out, but you're trying to force an external plan. Like you're trying to force rules to change you. It's really hard. It's very hard to change from the outside in. But when you know your body, like you know why you're getting cravings, you know what your body needs and you feel really confident with that, you have this power from the inside out. So that maybe you want to eat healthy, maybe you want to splurge and have some dessert, or you want to just have a snack or a treat, whatever it is that you want to eat, you're the one that's in choice. So I'm really all about training people on how to connect with their bodies so that they're the one that's making the decision about what food do they want to eat. And they're the ones that are in choice over it versus the food constantly controlling them, which tends to happen in dieting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. So that takes away then the shame, it seems like, because there is a lot of shame in the diet culture. Like, oh, I was supposed to eat X, Y, and Z and I didn't. So now I've messed up and you feel guilt. So your way of
Well,
empowering takes away that guilt, it sounds like.
yes, because what's interesting is that diets are setting you up to sabotage, to fail. Instead of listening and honoring your body, they actually, the way that they're designed is to set you up to fail. And if diets all worked, like the need for them would go away, right? So
True.
yeah, so it's a different approach, and that shame can kind of go away because when you diet, let's say you're like, tomorrow I'm starting over. I'm changing all of these foods and I'm going to force myself to not eat these foods. All of a sudden that huge change and that shift sends a signal to your brain that, whoa, there's a huge change and this is a stress. So all of a sudden, it's a different part of your brain that's working. It's like your stress brain. It's called your amygdala. So whenever the other area of your brain is working, when it's calm and relaxed, that's your prefrontal cortex. You don't get cravings. You can eat whatever you choose to. But when there's a massive shift or there's a stress, your brain gets a signal that there's actually a stress, and it's like your body's built in survival mechanism. It's there to protect you. When big changes happen, there could be a threat to your survival. So, like if you cut your calories really low, your body's like, oh, there's a threat to our survival. Something is changing. So, what it does is it activates your stress hormones to actually cause you to crave sugar and sweets and drive you to eat food. So, if you've ever maybe started a diet, and then all of a sudden you go to like autopilot and you like grab a food that you didn't mean to, or you ate something and you're like, all of a sudden it's over before you even realize it. And you're like, oh, what did I just do? I swore I wasn't ever going to do that. That is that brain working that's protecting you, that's saying we need to take over, we need to take control over their brain and like cause this self-sabotage for protection. So diets actually do that. They put you into that stress response. You don't know what's happening inside your body. You don't know how to get over control over it. You cause self-sabotage and then you go right back and then you feel the shame and the guilt right back where you were stuck.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. Okay. So let's back up on about cravings a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, so you don't have to be on a diet, obviously, to have cravings. Especially women,
Right.
we get cravings all the time.
Yes.
So, I mean, okay, so cravings can be hormonal. That I
Yep.
know.
Right.
Cravings can be due to a lack of nutrients. I know that.
Yep.
My sister one time had a lot of cravings, and the person she was working with told her that she was probably low on magnesium and to check her magnesium. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes cravings can be nutritional with nutrients, I know.
Right.
But you're saying now it's also brain related with the stress.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're spot on with that. Hormone shifts definitely make a difference. Blood sugar dips, just like you're saying, magnesium or certain deficiencies. So, it's all about becoming your own research project. It's all about you understanding yourself. So sometimes cravings take over and they create this like autopilot self sabotage, regardless of whatever reason it is. So I tell everyone, think of yourself as your own research project and getting to know your body really well. And one of the main causes that we get cravings is our brain gets the signal that there is some type of a stress happening. And so some people are like, that's not me because I'm happy and I don't feel stressed. But stress could even be that you feel bored. So
Oh,
boredom is actually a stress to your brain. It's like a lack of stimulation. It's a lack of something feeling good and entertaining your brain. So boredom can be a stress. Being tired is a stress to your body. Maybe you're feeling a little bit lonely or down one day, or maybe you're just very busy. For some people, they're not even unhappy, but they have very busy lives and they're go, 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 and they're on. So that go, 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 your brain requires your stress hormone cortisol to stay focused. So anytime your brain gets the signal that there is a stress, boredom, busyness, tired, actual stress, or maybe you got into a fight with somebody, And that activates that amygdala in your brain. And that's your fight or flight area of your brain. And that has your body release the stress hormone cortisol. And so cortisol's job is to shut down everything in your body that is not needed unless you need it for survival. So cravings is part of that, that it's signaling to your body, we have these instincts, we need food for survival. Our body comes back to that survival state. So it's actually going to create this animalistic like response where it's like, go get food, go get food. And so many people feel so bad that they can't get control over the cravings, but it's actually the body's job to say, hey, there's a stress and I'm trying to protect you.
So interesting.
The key here with that is not to try to fight your craving and willpower it away, because guess what? Instincts work. Instincts are stronger, right?
Okay.
So instead of trying to willpower and suppress the craving, what I want you to do is lean into it and ask, what is this craving trying to teach me about my body? Because it's a built-in thing that our body needs. It's a built-in safety mechanism. So I like to tell people to lean into that craving and ask, what is this craving trying to teach me?
Wow, I love that. So what is it trying to teach you?
Well, so for me, like when I had all these nutrition, brain smarts, I could tell you all about how to create the perfect nutrition plan. But I was all of a sudden getting this craving and I didn't know what it was. And I would self-sabotage and I'd go on this autopilot and then go back into that shame cycle until I was willing to say, okay, I'm going to lean into this and let this craving be my teacher. And what I found is I was getting like this midday stress spike that was like, I was really stressed around like 3 p.m. with work and I would feel stuck and I would feel anxious. And that was like, my brain was like, oh, let's go get safety. Let's go get something that feels good. So now like that's an opportunity for me to know my body really well. I can feel what it feels like when my stress hormones start to raise and I can start using the right techniques. Instead of trying to fight it, I can actually use techniques to bring my stress hormones down, connect back into my body instead of being taken over in autopilot. And those cravings naturally come down as you're getting your body out of that survival craving state. So that's why it's important to be your own research project, because for anyone, the craving could be showing you whatever it is that you need. Maybe that you're feeling really bored and you're not super excited. Maybe that you really need a nap. Maybe for a lot of women in particular, I know a lot of moms don't get a lot of quiet down me time. So sometimes that food time is actually a place for them to be like, oh, it's my time where I can just grab myself my favorite little treat and snuggle up in bed and no one will ask me for anything.
So interesting. So next time women get a craving, if it's not hormonal or nutritional deficiencies, they should ask themselves, okay, what is my body trying to teach me? Why am I having this craving? That is amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that thought.
And sometimes it's a combination. You might be hormonal and you're really emotionally having a hard time. And it's a great time to look at like, what are some of your unmet needs? It's a great time to ask yourself, what needs am I not having met? Why am I trying to feel good right now? What is it? Food can be really easy to help us try to feel good. And so part of being your own research project is, how are your hormones? Do you need to look at those? Do you need to look at nutrients? Do you need to look at like your emotional health? It's all about getting to know yourself deeper.
I love that. Okay, so with these cravings, how does willpower play a part? Because the diet world is teaching don't give in to those cravings. So you ask yourself these questions and then asking yourself, will that calm down the craving, or what do you do at that point?
Yeah. So willpower is like forcing your own instincts away. Instead of using willpower, I like to have people learn how to find their medicine for what they need, because willpower is like, it's like trying to fight it and pretend like it's not there, but instincts will keep like, they come back with a vengeance. So that's why willpower sucks. It's like a long-term strategy. So when you get to know yourself, you get to find your own medicine. So for some people, maybe that is getting support with hormones, or maybe that is really giving yourself the time and love that your body has been missing, the nurturing that it's been missing. For some people, when they get into a stress state, maybe you came home from work or you're feeling really stressed, sometimes it's actually getting your body's stress response down. And that's what was key for me, was actually learning how to regulate my nervous system. So one thing you can actually start doing is when you feel your stress hormones come up, start to notice your body changing. Like start to notice. I noticed like my breathing would get shallow. I'd start to get tense. I'd get anxious. I'd start moving really fast. And that's when I feel cravings start to get triggered. So instead of using willpower and being like this intensity, I would learn how to start breathing and being with my body. So sometimes like you can just take 3 deep breaths. There's research studies that have been done that show if you take 3 deep breaths, that brings down your body's stress hormone cortisol. When that comes down, cravings tend to like naturally come down because you're getting out of that stress survival response. So the need for willpower actually kind of goes away. You don't need it when you're calm and you're in control over your body. And then you can think more rationally and be like, wait, will this choice really serve me? Is this how I can best support myself in this situation? And you're not being controlled on autopilot.
I love that. So I love when you're not battling willpower and you're choosing to use these cravings as an educational moment, then there's no shame either because you haven't won or lost against this willpower. There's nothing to be shameful about, right?
Exactly.
You're choosing to use it as an education piece. I love that.
And nobody's perfect. Like we're all navigating our way. Unfortunately, when we were born, we had society, give us a really confusing relationship with food. If you were a kid and you were raised that you cannot leave the dinner table until all of your food is gone, it's just training you to eat until the plate is empty instead of listening and checking in on your hunger. So we may have had training ever since we were really little kids to ignore our hunger and kind of get a little bit weird with our food. So it's okay. We all have a lot of different relationships or experiences with food, and it's just getting to know yourself better. And that's where you tap into your inner power. When you know yourself, then you know how to honor yourself.
Well, I love that you say honor yourself because I am learning that, our bodies are miraculous, right? They are unbelievable. And a lot of us don't respect our body. If we all respected our bodies and loved our bodies, I don't think we'd have the food issues that we do today, the food addictions, the bad food relationships, this on and off dieting. So I love that you say to honor yourself.
Yeah.
That's really true.
It's a journey for sure. Learning how to listen to what your body needs and give it things that love and honor it. Sometimes we can use healthy eating or even exercise as a way of punishment for all the bad things that we've done, or we overeat as it tends to also be punishment. But also some of these things that we do that are not good to our bodies are actually an act of self-love and we don't realize it. So sometimes maybe overeating, or let's say you overeat and you like feel like crap and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I didn't honor my body. I don't love my body. What was I doing? But leading in again and asking, why was I doing that? What was I trying to get out of that overeating? And sometimes it's because there's something that we've been missing, whether it's a nutrient or whether it's just we want to feel the feeling of love. And we were raised a lot of people were raised the connection that food means love. Food is safety. Food feels good. So sometimes it's so easy to beat ourselves up and say, we don't take care of ourselves. We overeat. We do all these harmful things. But actually, sometimes overeating can be the biggest act of self-love when you're not getting what you need. And then when you learn how to get what you need, using food as a form of love actually naturally goes away.
Oh, that's interesting. So really with anything besides cravings, it can be overeating that you can ask yourself, why am I doing this? And try to understand that relationship with food.
Yeah,
I
I've
love
had
it.
some people do that with smoking. Some people bash themselves because they cannot quit smoking, and then they try to willpower their way through quitting smoking. And it's not working. So then I ask them to lean into it and say, what is the benefit that you're getting out of smoking right now? And this lady, she was like, oh, it's my time that I can just step outside. Everyone will leave me alone. It's my 5 minutes of peace. It's not even about the cigarette. Like, it's actually my 5 minutes of peace. And it's like, wow, that craving for that cigarette is telling you there are some needs that you're not getting met here. And when we can meet those needs, the need for the cigarette becomes a lot less.
Wow. I love that. I love just asking yourself and seeing, it's like seeing the bigger picture, seeing what it is that
Yeah.
you really need. Okay. So now
Yeah.
talking about willpower, cravings, shame, let's talk about metabolism because
Hmm.
this willpower and shame and cravings, that happens a lot in that on and off dieting and in our diet culture world. So have a lot of people's metabolisms been messed up? Like how does the food that we eat now versus how we were eating on the diet? I mean, tell us about
Hmm.
metabolism. What do you think is happening?
I love this because people feel so stuck. Like, I see so many people who think it's just a simple math equation. If my calories that I burn off are greater than what I'm eating, then I'm good. And a lot of people hit that plateau, and then they go to their doctor, and the doctor is like, it's simple math. If you just follow the rules, then you're good. And they feel so frustrated. Like, why can't I get it right? So what's really interesting is there's a couple pieces to this, and this is where I like to have people become their own research project and be honest with where they're at. Number one, if like you are on and off dieting and you're going through these cycles of restricting, overeating, it doesn't matter really what you try to do. If you're in these big cycles of on and off, let's come to a good relationship with our food and our body first, like we were talking about. Let's get in control over the cravings. The other piece to that is a lot of people underestimate the nutrients that are involved with the metabolism,
Yeah, they
which
do.
can
I
be
do know
so
that.
game changing. And so this is what is really cool is a lot of, so you in all of our cells have what's called a mitochondria, right? Familiar with mitochondria?
Tell my listeners really quick in a simple form what it is, just so that they are aware.
Yes, all of your cells have lots of, almost every cell, not every cell, your red blood cells don't have mitochondria, but almost every cell in your body has this little powerhouse engine that's called a mitochondria. And its job is to take your food and create energy. So if they work really good, your mitochondria are great at taking your calories and creating energy. If they don't work great, then what's going to happen is you might be eating lots of calories, but it's not creating energy. So it's getting stored as fat and you feel really tired instead.
Gotcha.
And so, for those little engines to work, they need a lot of nutrients, and people don't realize that. So, lots of vitamins, B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, even oxygen, which is why breathing is so important to be able to lose weight. So, if there are not enough nutrients to make that engine work, what happens is it slows down and the metabolism slows down. So, and where people go wrong is that they start to get frustrated and they cut their calories more, which means they're
Hmm.
probably getting even less and less of those nutrients, and things just are like barely moving. It's like halting
You see that all the time in the diet world because the women
all
hit
the
a
time.
plateau and they just think they need to cut their calories more. Okay, keep
Yes.
going.
And then so I test these nutrients, and sure enough, it's usually one of two things. Either the nutrients are really low, or there are certain toxins like heavy metals that can actually stop your mitochondria from working efficiently. So that's where things like our cleaning supplies, our beauty products, if we have things like heavy metals in them or toxins that can actually interrupt this cycle from working. So sometimes I even see like high mercury or high aluminum that is actually slowing down the metabolism that people are not considering.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I love that. I talk about toxins all the time, but rarely do I talk about it with metabolism and
Yeah,
or with the mitochondria, sometimes with the mitochondria, but I never connect the mitochondria with the metabolism with the toxins. So I
right?
love you sharing that.
Yeah, so all the things like aluminum directly impacts your mitochondrial function. So when we're looking at things like our deodorant or, aluminum based products, like that could absolutely be affecting your metabolism and your mitochondrial function. And it's not uncommon.
Okay, so I don't think very many women know that, or I think many women would be surprised, I should say, that their metabolism would be better if they reduce their toxin load. That is incredible.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating about that too is it's kind of a double whammy. So the toxins slow down your metabolism and how well your mitochondria are functioning, but also our toxins are attracted to fat. So when we actually get toxins in our body, whether we ingest it or through our skin, our body will actually take those toxins and store it in our fat to protect our organs. So when you are consuming those toxins, it's actually shifting your body towards storing fat just to be able to protect your organs.
Well, I knew that about the toxins, and I'm glad you shared that about being stored in the fat. Amazing. Okay,
Hmm.
so I know I got listeners thinking, okay, I'm stuck in the diet culture world, or I'm stuck trying to always count my calories or counting whatever, right? So if someone's listening right now and they're just feeling overwhelmed, like I don't know even where to begin, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So I think the first step is shifting your mindset around wanting a relationship with your body because it can be a little bit of a journey. It has taken me time. I was in the same place of counting calories every day, filling up pages and books, and nothing was actually really working because I was trying to use my head for something that was my body's job.
Wow, I love that.
Right? My body was like our bodies are so intelligent. Our bodies actually can tell us when do we need food, when do we need comfort, when are we stressed, how hungry are we, how many calories do we need. And so our body has this wisdom and it takes a little bit of time. So if you've lost trust with your body, that's okay. You can, just like if you lost trust with anyone that you know, you can always change that relationship, and it might take some time and some gentleness of moving into that relationship. So I think it starts with the desire that you really actually want to change that relationship. So you can start getting curious with it. Start getting curious that when you're eating, start bringing your attention from up in your brain where you're counting calories, you're wondering if it's enough. Maybe you have cravings up in your brain. Start breathing and bringing your attention down into your body and getting curious. What is is this my true hunger right now, or is this a craving hunger? Am I satisfied? What does my body need? And start leaning into actually using your body's innate wisdom that it actually has, and you can just do that with curiosity.
So you talk a lot about mindful eating. Would you say that's the same thing as intuitive eating?
They're very similar. They're very similar. Intuitive eating is sometimes they're used interchangeably, but intuitive eating is more like listening to your body. It's like your intuition, your innate wisdom. Mindful eating is about like connecting with your food and your environment, maybe no TV, no cell phones, no multitasking, where you're creating an eating experience where you're connecting with your food, and it's more about like the eating experience.
So it's almost to a higher level, it sounds like.
They're both great, but just different. So, yeah,
Okay,
mindful eating is like the experience of eating. Intuitive eating is like, let me connect to my body while I'm eating.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to sort of move to a new topic, but maybe you
Okay.
won't think it's a new topic. A while ago, you chose to share your decision on Instagram to remove your breast implants. And
Hmm.
what caused you to go this route? And I know it was really interesting for me to read about. So I'm sure the listeners would love to just hear what made you decide to do this and how did you have the courage to do this and just your little journey.
Sure. So I had my breast implants, and I never, they tell you it's safe, everything is fine. Like, and I never really thought about it being something, maybe being an issue for me. But I noticed my health really starting to shift. I noticed my metabolism slowing down, and I was really frustrated. I was trying to eat really well. I was exercising like crazy, and I was absolutely exhausted. Like my energy was just draining. and I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I was feeling all of that frustration and like, I'm a dietitian. I should know how to do this. I'm teaching
Right.
people how to take back their energy and lose weight. And why can't I do it for myself? And I had a ton of frustration with my body. And I felt like there was a war happening inside my body, and I didn't know what it was. And what was interesting is I started getting this little rash on my hand, and it was really weird. And it actually started spreading all over my body, up my arms, up my legs. And I went to my doctor, and she did a little biopsy of it, and she said, nope, it's not an infection. It's actually just inflammation in your body. But don't worry, we'll see if it goes away over the next 2 years. And if you want, we can give you a cortisone cream to try to suppress it.
Wow.
So this was like the one thing that my body was trying to communicate to me, like, hey, listen up, there's something going on in here. And my doctor wanted to try to suppress the one piece of communication I actually had with my body that was like, there's something happening
off.
in here. Yeah. And I actually didn't put two and two together, but I had so much inflammation. Like my face was puffy. Like I felt like I had just all this inflammation. I had like my metabolism was slowing down. I just felt so not like myself, and I couldn't figure it out. And then one day I was on Instagram, and a friend of mine had posted that she had just finished her chemo from breast implant associated lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? Breast implant associated lymphoma? Like it has its own cancer? And so I had a talk with her, and I said, hey, like, I have breast implants, but I don't think that I'm having any issues with them. Like, I don't think they're leaking. I think they're fine. I don't think it's an issue. And she sent me some resources that started me down a path where I started finding some of the research on breast implants and how there's a connection between breast implants and autoimmunity, and that where we think that breast implants are maybe just purely silicone or whatever the outer shell is. And I started going to the manufacturer's spec sheets, and you can see a long list of heavy metals and chemicals and this huge list. And here I was trying not to drink out of plastic water bottles, but yet I had like a pound of these chemicals right over my heart, on my chest. And I can't say for sure if any of the material was coming into my body or if my immune system was reacting to my implants and causing all that inflammation. I can't confirm that that's absolutely true. But when I found all that information on the connection between breast implants and breast implant illness, and a lot of just hundreds of thousands of women who have similar symptoms that I did, it was kind of a no-brainer that I was like, I need to get these out of my body. And I scheduled a surgery for a month later, and I got them out. And within the first week, my rash was almost gone completely. And
Really?
I actually created a video on it that I share with people. You can see the pictures. But the rash originally it was awful. It was so raised and red and like angry. And within the first week, it was almost completely gone. And in the course of, weeks after that, it all healed and went away. And my body just like found harmony. Like I shed all of this like inflammation, and my cravings went down. So what I think was really interesting is I think two things were happening. I think one, the implants were putting a stress on my body. And I think it was releasing my stress hormones that were causing me to gain weight. They were triggering cravings, and I didn't feel in control over my body and my food. And on the flip side, I also couldn't figure out why I was so tired. So I started doing some labs, and I actually did a lab that tests your mitochondria to see which nutrients might be missing, to see if they're low. And what was interesting is even though I was eating so healthy, I had so many nutrients that were depleted, that tend to be depleted from stress. And so that's why I think my energy was completely in the slumps. My metabolism was crashing. And I really think it was a big part of those implants. So that's really a big part of what led me to doing what I do today, is helping people understand, number one, what is the stress that's happening in their body. And for me, I think that it was the implants that were creating my stress, that were creating my cravings. And then I was also able to use labs and data to understand my body on a deeper level and see like which nutrients am I missing that are being depleted, that's slowing down my mitochondria and stopping. So it's kind of like both ends that really helped me feel like I know my body.
Okay, so two questions here. One, do you recommend all people with breast implants to go that route?
So I don't think that, I can't say for sure that everyone reacts to implants, but with my experience, getting them out massively changed my life. And I see so many women. There's a Facebook group, it's called Breast Implant Illness and Healing by Nicole, that has, I don't remember how many, but I want to say like 50,000 or so women in there just talking about the science. So like, what's the current research? How are people feeling when they have implants and they get them out? And it's incredible to see the stories of how people feel better. So my advice is,
It's an
it's so
individual
hard to
basis.
say.
And if they're
It is.
having health issues, that's another avenue they could look at. Because
Yeah,
solving health issues, I mean, there are so many different routes that could maybe help the health
correct.
issue. So that's just one more
Yep,
for women to be aware of and
it
educated,
is.
and then they can make an educated an educated choice for themselves.
And the information just isn't out there enough. And I just found so much research on breast implant illness and the connection of what implants could do to our body that I feel like it's strong enough that I would say if you have them and you don't feel well, it doesn't hurt to get them out. And I feel my health feels better than it ever has my entire life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's just a good
Yeah,
little piece of information for women to know, like I said, so that they can make more educated choices. My second question
absolutely.
was, though, you were talking about getting your mitochondria tested. So I know people will ask, like, oh, how do I go get my mitochondria tested? I want to know if I'm lacking these nutrients. So, what do you suggest for that?
Yeah, so I actually started a program. It's called Know Your Numbers so that you can really feel confident in knowing if you're wondering like what are my nutrient levels and you're maybe you hit that plateau or your energy is really low or you want to see like is my body really trying to detox? We look at some detox markers. And so this can really help you just dial it in and know like, do I need any supplements or which foods am I maybe missing? How do I get my mitochondria to work better if they're not? So yeah, that's a program that I created that is testing your mitochondrial function with dialing it in so that you know.
So they can find the test through you.
Yes, yeah. You can see it there on my website and you can learn more about it. I actually have a free webinar that you can find on my website that is about how nutrients impact how your metabolism works. So there's some really great research articles in there. There's one really great research article that I came across that showed that people with low vitamin C levels burn 25% less fat during exercise than people with adequate vitamin C levels.
Wow. I actually have heard that quite a few times. So I love that you have that
Interesting, huh?
research. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, no.
Oh, okay. So I know you have that program, but you also have your Mastering Mindful program also. So tell my followers about that one as well.
Yeah, so mastering mindfulness is more like if you are on that on and off dieting or you feel like you get those cravings or you get that autopilot and you're like, why do I keep sabotaging my diet? That's where you get to know your body from that level. So there's the piece of knowing your data and your labs. And then there's the knowing yourself and connecting with your body. So, from the mastering mindfulness perspective, where if you're getting those cravings or you keep sabotaging your diet or you don't have a good relationship with food, it's actually creating that empowerment from the inside out.
Oh, that sounds like such a great program. Okay. So if you were to give one takeaway from today's episode, what would be the one takeaway you would want listeners to know?
Your health is it's not about willpowering anybody else's rules or anything like that. It's really finding that power within yourself. It's knowing yourself from the inside out. Whether you are getting to know your hormones or your emotions or your cravings or your lab data or whatever it is, but you will really have a lot of empowerment from the inside out when you really create that relationship with yourself first.
Empowerment is such a huge thing. If we can just all empower ourselves to make the best choices for us with having this knowledge about our bodies and things, our health for the rest of our lives will be so much for the better. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell my listeners where they can find you.
Well, they can always head over to ginaworful.com, Worful, and that's where you can find some really great resources. I do a weekly newsletter with lots of tips and strategies. And like I said, that free webinar on how nutrients can impact your metabolism. So there's a lot of resources there. And I'm on Instagram, gina.worful. So if you have any questions or anything came up for you, feel free to send me a DM. I always answer everything, and I'm happy to be a resource for anybody.
Thank you so much, Gina. I want to get my mitochondria tested. I'm like, I want to see how it's going. So I may just talk to you about that.
I love it.
Okay. I finish every podcast with asking my guest, what have you found to be the best ingredient in life?
Ooh, I would say curiosity, because regardless of whether you are excited and inspired or you are going through a tough time, curiosity allows you to keep digging deeper and just keep going and stay inspired.
Oh, that's a good one. I haven't heard that. Hasn't been one of the best ingredients yet. So I love the curiosity. Thank you, Gina, so much for talking to my listeners. I learned a lot about cravings and shame and willpower, and I hope my listeners have too. And hopefully they will take that willpower and shame, guilt out of their life and understand their body more. I just love how you're trying to teach people to connect to their body, because I think that will make a beautiful connection between the food and the body rather than some bad relationship with it. So I love that. So thank you so much, Gina, for taking your time to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.